Thank you, Eric. You bring up a lot of very good points for future conversation, 100%. My question for you is, are you aware of that term, if we don't use the half funding, we lose it?
Well, first off, there's a view in this council that half funding money is other money from somewhere else. It's money from Canadian taxpayers. So it should be used appropriately. And if Halton is responsible for the housing mandate and the view is to create possibly some very low income housing, then Halton should be doing that and the half funding should be redirected to Halton. Burlington creating an infrastructure to build affordable housing and qualify residents to move into that housing is a complete overlap with another level of government. It's not a provincial responsibility for Burlington to look after affordable housing. So I think the approach needs to be, look at the amount of time and money you're spending on this issue, look at the responsibilities that you're given by the province, and decide where an appropriate use of that money is.
Okay, thank you. Just a point of clarity. I totally agree with you about not having the overlap. Are you aware in our housing strategy that we designed it to specifically start where the region responsibilities leave off? So the Burlington housing strategy is not about subsidized housing that the region is responsible for, and it's not about market housing that the market will take care of itself. It's meant for that middle piece where there was no one with oversight over it. And would you consider use of half dollars, the Housing Accelerator Fund, which you're right is tax dollars from upper level government, would you consider the strategic purchase of land that the city was then the landowner on, with ideas like land lease opportunities? There's a development in Oakville, I think it's called Meadowland Muse or something, where it's city-owned land lease in order to make it affordable, not to subsidized regional responsibilities, but to that missing piece for workforce housing. Would you see that as a better use for half dollars?
Halton has a program for lower income earners. They have a way to measure income. They have a way to qualify people. What you're saying is you want to raise the income level of the qualification, and you want Halton to handle between 0 and 10. I don't pick unrealistic numbers on purpose. And you want Burlington to handle between 10 and 20. You're going to need software systems. You're going to need people. You're going to have an overlap. Halton should manage between 0 and 20 if that's the goal. Burlington can help.
Okay, interesting idea. Thank you.
Councillor Sharman.
All right, thank you. I always appreciate your well-informed delegations, and much appreciated. You raised the point about repressive taxes, and I find that a fascinating question with respect to the nature of the regulations from the province that both define property taxes versus MPAC and valuation-based property tax determination. But the question that triggered in my mind is the accumulation of equity and how you bring that into your comments, because it's clear that people who have owned a home a long time have accumulated significant equity, and that relates to the property taxes they pay. So what's the answer?
I'm looking at it as, what are the rules today? The rules of the game today are you tax based on the property value. And in reality, people that live on the lakeshore pay more property tax. Higher income earners pay more property taxes. Where the regressive property tax hurts is on somebody on ODSP. They don't have any flexibility. You're coming in and you're raising their taxes, and there's nothing they can do about it. So that's the reality we're in today. What the answer is, I don't know. That's a different discussion altogether. But we have to live within the rules that we have right now.
Yeah, but what you're suggesting, if I may follow up on that, is that the council should therefore solve the problem by changing the tax, the way in which it taxes
not at all.
Taxes.
I'm saying these are the rules we have. Council can't solve this problem. It's a provincial issue. I know lobbying is taking place from FCM and from the big city mayors, but for today's discussion in the next 2 years, it's very unlikely that a change is going to take place. Right, so we should just accept that reality and work within it.
Appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Councillor Kearns.
Thank you very much. Through the chair. So does it give you some comfort to know that the existing community improvement plan for affordable housing already has some considerations outlined related to development charges assistance programs? That's in section 5.5 to 5.7. And are you understanding that the difference between the motions that we might be looking at today are both scoped in two different ways.
See-
One,
sorry.
the way that the motion from three colleagues identifies is that it requires options for the temporary elimination of development charges, full stop. That's the end product. The other one, which is the one that was put forward by staff originally at committee that didn't carry through, provides more of an obtuse path to provide any tools, including development charges, to help unlock more affordable housing. Are we even having a conversation with the community that understands the nuances between what we're going to have before us?
Well, I made the point in my delegation. The motions, to the best of my knowledge, I can't find them, have not been made public. And this is a really complicated issue. There are all kinds of pros and cons of doing things, and there are implications of government actions. But you may potentially have walked in here today, thrown a motion on the table that the public's never seen, voted on it, and it's done. And the few remaining strands of trust I have with this council after the property tax presentation of the percent, the way you choose to tell us the percentage, have been broken completely, and were broken completely on February 17th. When you, Mayor, you walked in with a motion, you threw it on the table, and there was a vote. No public input. So we need the public has a right when we're talking about $6 million or $9 million or $41 million. The public has a right to see that and an opportunity for 30 days at least to review it and comment on it. We don't know if the start of a building is going to be foundation poured or it's going to be the developer throws a fence around the property and they'll get an exemption until they build 20 years from now. So none of those details have been made public, and this is a hugely complex issue.
Okay, so my second question for clarity is, are you aware that there is an existing community improvement plan that could be amended versus the request from some colleagues to create the potential for a new community investment plan?
I am not aware of that, and I think someone needs to sit back and say, is this a mandate of this council, and how much money are we spending on this process?
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Stolte.
Thank you. So my question is one of clarity based on the answer you just gave to Councillor Kern's first question. Would you feel more comfortable, and I think you bring up a really interesting point, would you feel more comfortable if there was, and I don't know what tool this would be, but some sort of policy implementation for this council that when motions are being put on the floor that are considering a tax dollar figure, a use of residents' tax dollars above a certain figure. So if it's going to include a number, I'm just going to throw out over $200,000, that there's a process that goes in place to ensure that there is time given for public engagement and time given for proper look at options before decisions are made. Because I agree with you, the idea that we're making quick decisions without public input on multi-millions of dollars is not appropriate. So would a cap policy that sets a cap and then a process that leads from that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay, good. I like that idea.
Councillor Sharman.
Thank you very much. I just want to come back and clarify. It's a clarifying question. If indeed a CIP suggestion recommendation today actually involved dealing with perhaps amendments to the existing CIP, would that be more acceptable?
See, I haven't read the CIP because all the discussions on this between September and February were another level of government was going to make Burlington whole. And it wasn't really a big concern for me other than, I'm not sure about the overlaps and things like that. So I haven't done any research on it. And, I have a life and I like to enjoy my retirement and do other things beside Reed's council documents. So it's completely unfair that this issue blows up 2 weeks ago.
No, and I totally agree with you, which is why we're referring it. Having said that, though, do you feel also that instead of having sound bites thrown at you, it would be helpful if we had a more fulsome discussion?
It would be helpful to have some clear information. I've asked for the motions, all of those things, and for all residents, not just for me.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
Councillor Kearns.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to go through the mayor to touch on that point around community engagement being tied to a financial obligation. Do you have any idea how much the decision today might cost?
I don't even know what the decision today is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly,
Right.
thanks.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. I do have, don't go away yet. I do really, yeah, you're almost done. And I really appreciate you being here, Eric, and all the delegates. So you did talk about the property taxes being regressive. Couldn't agree more. And you touched on Federation of Canadian Municipalities, as well as the Association of Municipalities, as well as Ontario Big City Mayors, and many others, asking for a new framework with the federal and provincial governments. Could we count on your support in continuing our advocacy to get that, recognizing other provinces don't have DCs at all, other provinces don't download social services to the local tax base, et cetera. So this, there's other places in Canada that are ahead of us.
It's a complicated issue. The federal and provincial governments are in my opinion, broke or approaching bankruptcy. So for this council to come up with ideas and programs that they want to implement and then expect another level of government to fund them that's already bankrupt to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the debt level now, for federal and provincial deficits and debts are astronomical. So how can you expect those governments to give you some of their share? You can expect those governments to turn around and increase taxes on people and then give you some of that increase in tax. That's a possibility, but I don't see them giving up part of their share. And to me, it just means I think you need to live within your means and get back to doing the boring things that municipalities do, cutting grass and fixing potholes and not saving industries. And I'm sorry, I use a lot of wonderful city services, let me add that. Some of these things are more down to earth. Better choice of words.
We're glad that you use them and you get good value from them. My other question is just around the process for getting motions circulated and out to the community and on the agenda. Interested in your advice for us. I can tell you that members that wanted to bring motions tried valiantly to get it on the agenda and were advised it was out of order with our procedure bylaw and it had to come at the meeting. So our next best thing was to circulate it publicly. I hope you're on newsletters. It was in there as well. So do you think we would benefit from some maybe changes or updates that would allow those motions to come forward as part of an addendum in the council agenda?
I don't follow it to the level of detail that Jim Thompson does, and he should be commended for doing that. So I don't understand it. I don't think it's fair, and I think something needs to change.
Yep.
And I received 3 or 4 newspapers and other newsletters, and other people forwarded other words to me from the community. There's no details of the motion. Councillor Sharman's, I believe yours just doesn't address the issue, period. The development charges issue, your most recent newsletter. So there's nothing going out in detail to the community.
Okay, my follow-up is, are you on my newsletter? Because it was certainly in there more than once.
No.
Okay, so mayor@burlington.ca,
Okay.
you can subscribe. That might be of help. Okay, Councillor Kearns.
Well, it's a good thing the engagement charter's coming out soon. So my question is this: do you think we can bring advocacy to the bank, or should we be extremely certain on our funding sources before we make decisions?
I've talked to people at the federal government level, and they have meetings like this, and they talk about a valid use of taxpayer dollars, and people break out laughing because there's no public in the room, right? The taxpayers' dollars are taxpayers' dollars, and they're important. They're a sacred trust that we give to staff and we give to this council to use wisely. So yes, of course, there should be public input when significant amounts of taxpayers' dollars are being spent.
Thanks. My second question is this: do you feel like it's fair to be blamed for not knowing about an upcoming amendment using someone's personal email newsletter?
Okay, I think I'll let that one answer itself.
Well, we're going to be answering about use of corporate resources tomorrow, so it's really important that we know how the community is getting information, and we don't have that from our community survey in fulsome detail. So that's my question.
Okay, no, communications about things that are happening at council should come out in an unbiased and an unfiltered way from the city, not the councillor with their own agenda. They should come out from the city first, and then councillors can certainly comment on them with their own opinions. That would be a more democratic process.
Okay, thanks for some good ideas to respect the electorate.
Councillor Sharman.
Thank you very much. I just want to follow up on something you just said. Do you get my newsletter directly from me?
I believe so.
Because I did send an update on Saturday. Did you get that?
I may have, I may not have. The grandkids were available Saturday, so I had other things to do.
It was sent. Thank you.
There was one Wednesday and one Thursday that didn't cover it. So I'd already read 2 in the week, and that you know, I may have just gone, not another one.
Seeing no more questions, one final. We're just glad you got the information one way or the other, and you're here. That's awesome. So one of the other sort of hurdles that we faced is that typically city doesn't communicate about a decision from committee before it goes to council. They do the press releases after there's a final vote, because it's just recommendations coming from committee. There was no vote at a council meeting, so you had referenced Feb 17. There was no vote there. It moved it here. So would it be beneficial if there was some city communications about what happened at committee before something comes to a council vote? That's something we can consider.
Well, first, there were a lot of communications about the items being referred and the change of the purpose of this meeting. And there were a lot about the special council meeting, whatever today is, the 2nd or the 3rd, I've lost track already. Yep. But none of them said it had any detail. It just said there's a meeting coming. Ba-da-da, fanfare. But there was nothing about an agenda or details or what was being discussed, and that was on Facebook and Instagram and X and everywhere else. So there was an opportunity there to, here's a link to what we're actually going to talk about that wasn't taken, and of course it would help, because people don't know what you're voting on at a council meeting. How are we supposed to know? And a lot of people have to work and pay so that they can pay their taxes and support your salaries. So they're not able to come to these meetings and listen.
Yep, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.